decision. Okay, why don't you call it?
Mr. McElraney?
Here.
Ms. Sprague?
Here.
Ms. Hannah? Here. Mr. Milstein?
Here.
Mr. LaParle?
Here.
You don't care about me? See, you always do that in council.
I know, it's like, really?
You run out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, you provided us with minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted by the clerk?
Make a motion, accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not-
Yes.
Oops, sorry. Yes.
Page 2, Article 3, Section 303, Duties and Powers. If I recall, the motion not only included removing the mayor presiding, but it also included having the president of council preside.
Well, and if you read the minutes, it's subsequent to
Is
that
it?
next section.
Okay.
Because you remove it in one section, but you have to put it into the council section.
Yeah.
So if you go on to the next page,
I understand that. I guess I have a question of order, or a question as it relates to how it will be balloted.
well, again, that's going to be,
Final, the
yeah,
final
that,
language is.
this has
on.
nothing to do with how it will be balloted.
Okay.
Right.
I guess my point is they need to be together balloted.
Well, again, that won't be our decision. If one comes out, the other goes in, all that's relevant to here is that you all made a decision that that's what you wanted. So in here, I put, under that section, so in 303, on page 2, it says the mayor shall be given a voice in the deliberations of council, but he shall have no vote. So we took out preside at council meetings.
Right.
And then under,
On page 4 at the top, I
right,
understand.
right. So when they, it might read something like, shall there be a charter amendment, there be amendment, removing the mayor's, the mayor as presiding officer of council. Maybe something as simple as that. And then the subsequent rendition of the charter will eliminate one and add the other.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
still questioning a point of order here. The motion involved both sections, 303 and 403.
And they're in here.
I understand that.
If you want to change it, reword it, reword it.
I am concerned that when it goes to council, if it goes to them in this form instead of the
It
entire
won't go,
motion in one place.
it won't go in
identified.
this form. The law department will get the,
Never mind.
yeah, no, feel free to say whatever you want, and I will print it right here.
Yeah, I think if I understand it right, we've told a lot of people we'd like to see them before it goes.
I emailed him
Said
something.
that. So we'll have an opportunity, I think, to make comments if there are problems.
I guess my point is that it's being organized by charter sections still, as opposed to by motion.
Say whatever you want, and I'll write it.
I just did.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, but
Is that correct? Is that what you're doing?
yes, she's organizing it by charter section. So David, are you asking her to make a change to the minutes or not?
I think he did. That's why he said he's asking to amend it to include Article 3 and 4 in one motion.
Okay.
I'm suggesting that the motion included both, so it should be structured that way.
Okay.
That way it's going to avoid any confusion, the possibility of it ending up with the voters on the ballot voting for one part, perhaps not the other. That would create a real problem for us.
Again, I think, the law department will come up with a piece of legislation, and we hope after tonight's meeting, we'll be able to get a date where we could reconvene and
Understand.
see that legislation. But I agree, it's gotta be together. It can't be two separate pieces, because if one passes, the other one doesn't. And I think, because somebody's gotta preside at the meeting. So it's not the mayor, it's gotta be somebody.
I just think if I were handed this I'm not a lawyer. But if I were handed this, I would go in the order it was presented to me. And I may end up creating two separate things for the ballot because of this. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just expressing concern.
Okay.
The minutes do reflect the motion. It's just shown in two different places, the single motion. That's all.
Okay, so what do we want to hold off the minutes? You're going to change the minutes?
Oh, you just said accept them as amended.
Oh, okay. All right. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
So moved. I think that we're all on the same page with that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, I think where we left off last night, or last time, was with the, we were in the fractions, and I don't want to cut off Peggy and Joe. Did you guys have more issues to discuss on the planning commission? I was a little confused what you guys are talking about right now.
I was just thinking, the question is, and with those examples that I sent you, in most cities, or a lot of cities, some cities, everybody's different, is I'd like to see council be the final say or oversee. Planning commission is a recommendatory body, and then council, whoever stamps it, or agrees with it, or disagrees, or whatever. So rather than going through things that could be administrative functions that really council doesn't need to say or doesn't want to see, the big items, public improvements, et cetera, that need to be to council, what if we word something that planning commission's decisions are, that council next year, if this passes, council will determine which items of planning commission they approve and which ones can be administrative. And
Well, that's what Mr. Milton suggested the last time. And you said that probably wasn't a good idea.
well, I don't know, I'm asking if that's more in line, because we can't sit here tonight and go through major subdivisions, minor subdivisions, lot splits, public improvements.
Right,
That's
never get
not
all
gonna be
listed.
practical.
Sure, John.
Question. In this scenario, if I, as a builder, come to the planning commission and meet every rule and regulation, and they stamp it okay, council says no on this particular thing, does that stop me from going ahead? If it does, then I have a right to sue the city, am I correct?
Well, you always have the right to sue,
No,
but I guess it depends on what are you getting approved, development plan, concept plan, final approval, depends on what you're going for.
well, but see, that's not, it doesn't.
Well, that's what we're talking about. There's all those different functions that planning commission does as planning commission. Right now, and though it's different than it used to be, planning commission just kind of did whatever and approved it, and council didn't even know it was being approved.
Well, maybe what you would be asking for, that it would be,
Council should final review all planning decisions.
and then, of course, council would then, could then write whatever rules, regulations they want as to what they want to.
How about something like what you just said? Council shall have final approval over all planning commission decisions unless otherwise delegated back to the planning commission or administrative function?
That would work.
But then you have the ordinance that says it. What happens if there's no ordinance written to that effect? Then what's the backup? I mean, what happens if there's no backup?
You can't trust the fact that that's going to occur.
Well, then if that doesn't
It
occur.
didn't occur the last time when we went from 6 council people down to 5. So how can we trust that this is?
Well, if
going
it
to
doesn't,
occur?
then council,
Wait, what are you talking about? It didn't occur, I don't know
Well,
what you're saying.
if you remember when I asked Shane, when this was being proposed, and you were there, Betty, I believe, on council at the time, that they would then go back and they would define what legislative actions or legislative duties were council actions and what administrative duties were the mayor's, and separate those by way of ordinance. And those never occurred.
I don't remember
Well, the
And so
way I.
here we are sitting some years later, and we have council micromanaging the operation of the city. It just doesn't make sense.
But I don't think it is, I don't think in this case it is. And if it doesn't, like if we say the wording that I just said in the sentence, council will have final
Pick it.
authority over planning commission, or final approval over planning commission decision unless otherwise delegated. If it's not otherwise delegated, if they don't get around to passing it, then council has to see everything planning commission does.
Right. Well, I can't vote for it under that scenario. I can vote for something that makes sense, but I guess it's two-pronged because we have the issue as to whether or not we're going to go to 5 electors as opposed to what's currently set up. And so therefore, we have 1 to see if that passes, and then 2 to see if this passes. And they would have to be tied together, obviously. We couldn't do one without the other.
Well, maybe it is too much. Just go with the one we already have on the table and then come back in a couple of years and see how that works.
What are you talking about, Peggy?
Planning Commission, I had sent over examples from Green, Stowe, and Glen Willow about how planning, council is the final planning authority versus planning commission. And just talking about whether that makes sense for us to do that. I'd like to see council have final say in most of planning commission, but Joe brought up smaller administrative functions that don't need to come to council, and I agree with that. So we're just trying to figure out what makes sense here.
So the proposal was that the council would have authority to review planning council decisions, planning commission decisions, unless otherwise delegated.
By council.
Joe
Hey.
proposed that, yes.
My only question, being here with all these years, majority of the people on the planning commission have some kind of architect, road, you know what I'm saying, qualifications in the way this, who on council right now is an architect, engineer, you know what I'm saying? So that's my question, if you've got qualified people on the planning commission, and unless it's changed, and I know when Joe is there, whoever comes there sees what the mayor first, and they go over blah, 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 and the mayor says you gotta do, well, you go to the planning commission, we got qualified, I can't think of his name, he talks about traffic and study and all that.
Westbrook.
Westbrook, okay. So that's my question is, the members of the planning commission have some knowledge in certain areas of this. If the council would say no, are they more qualified than the planning? I don't know.
You know, Chuck, you bring up a good point, and I can understand that. And when Kevin Westbrooks was picked for the Macedonia Planning Commission, I had a lot of hope that he was going to do a good job. However, about a week or 2 ago, he went ahead and he approved the soccer stadium and probably made one of the most ignorant statements in the newspaper that I have heard come out of a planning commission member's mouth. He said, if the code permits it, we need to do it. And I thought back again, and I know Dave always laughs at this, but I thought back again how me, Joe, and Anna Haydock knocked out Salemi's plan to put mini warehouses next to the high school. And you know what? That fit code, but you know what we were doing? We were planning. We were talking about creating an environment for a high school, for a place of learning and education that was going to reflect the aesthetic and reflect the atmosphere of that particular institution.
And you don't have engineering skills.
And the whole thing about it is that, you know, Joe took the lead on this one. I ended up getting sued, Joe ended up getting sued, Anna ended up getting sued, and what drove me nuts being a member of Planning Commission was I would sit there and people would say to me, the code permits it. Well, you know what? The code permits steel buildings. The code permits metal roofs. The code permits low-cost, efficient building materials that don't necessarily enhance the value or the aesthetic of this community. And I know I used to call up Dave when I was a member of council and go, Dave, you won't believe what they did today. And thank God Dave is now a member of Planning Commission, because I think that Dave probably goes home and thinks the same thing. And I've got another member of the Planning Commission, I forget his name now, but he would sit there and say to me, you know what, I don't care what it looks like, if the code permits it. And then I've got the mayor who says, hey, we gotta bring these people in, this is tax revenue. And look what we have. We have a mess. I mean, I take a look, we said that on that one at the corner of South Bedford and 82, we set a sign palette and how the sign should look. Planning Commission overturned it all. They overturned what we did with DDR at the Commons. They overturn anything they want. It's all ad hoc zoning right now, and the mayor comes in there and he sits down, and boy, we're lucky to have these people. I mean, you know, we've gone from having one of the finest shopping areas at the Commons in Macedonia. You know what we got there now? We got a goddamn truck stop. I drove past there the other day, and believe it or not, I saw a gentleman get out of his truck and standing by his truck doing his business. And I thought to myself, here, our mayor said Walmart wants these guys to park here, so they'll come in and buy a few candy bars. You know, they'll buy a battery for their radio or something.
Let's get back.
I'd like to, not to interrupt the filibuster here, but in light of the fact that we approved 11 amendments last meeting, I would like to withdraw my recommendation to change the wording for the planning authority, and hope that if things are approved, I will maybe talk to council next year about making that change, you know, later.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for feeling so passionate about
Well, wait,
this.
I thought you were arguing you want planning to have.
He does want it, but I think it's, after talking and after thinking while he was talking, I think it's a little too confusing to try to get, you know, we're under a time crunch, trying to finish this up tonight. I just think it's a little bit too confusing. If we can't decide on it here, the knowledge at this table, I just think it will be hard to sell to the voters.
All right,
Just a minute, Chuck, then I promise I'll let you talk. So you're asking to withdraw the motion we've already passed?
No. I'm asking to withdraw the discussion we're at the table relative to the planning authority. What we've already passed, I don't want to change anything we passed it. Right.
Council is
Right.
the ultimate planning
Right,
authority.
right. So I would like to just keep it the way it is, not make any more amendments relative to planning commission.
I think he was trying to redefine it and make it,
Okay.
you know, just more discernible.
Right.
All right.
But even just quickly looking at Greens, it's really generic. It means, it just says, the commission shall have the additional powers, duties prescribed by ordinance, resolution, and to the extent not to conflict with the charter and the city's ordinance. It's always going back to ordinances. So if you don't have that as a go-to, there's nothing to explain this. Any legislation be considered by council concerning zoning, we already have that in our place. But it doesn't really provide the explanation within the body. It always refers to the ordinance, even,
Could, a question, could not council
Because what difference
pass
does it make
an
if
ordinance
you do those,
without changing the charter to require, or to, you know, final approval to be acquired from them?
I don't know. I would
the
say,
charter supersedes the ordinance.
If
yeah.
the charter doesn't talk about it, then the ordinance.
But ours
should be written.
does.
Right, but ours,
Okay.
yeah, it says, the planning commission shall be the planning authority. So the general rule is, the charter silent, that's when you go to your RC or your ordinances. So. And ours does say planning authority.
That's an important distinction.
Okay, so you're just
All right.
withdrawing discussion.
Right.
All right, Chuck wants to make a
I
comment.
agree with Ken, and some of that stuff doesn't meet the code, but I think instead of going crazy and legal, don't you think somebody should sit down and go over these codified ordinances and codes and say, wait, this one's 80 years old. It doesn't meet today's.
It's not our job, but I agree.
I agree with
We
you,
should.
whoever job it is,
Right.
could sit down and say, wait, code A says setback for a fence is 20 feet, that was, we could go to 6 feet. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of things Ken said is right, but if it's in the codified ordinance and code, it's legal. I don't know who would do it, I'll be willing to sit down with a group and start from the very beginning.
The last time that was done in the 80s when Ron Kovach and Judy Sublett were around.
And I'll just interject that Jim Lotney tried to do that too, and it's cumbersome. What
It's
happens
very
is,
cumbersome.
it takes months and months and months, and you fix one area and it complicates another, and you just think, ugh. It's like closing the closet door, I'll clean it another day,
It's like the 7 labors of Hercules, right?
something like that.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Peggy's opinion, but I would like to make a motion that council would review decisions of planning commission unless otherwise, I don't know how I'd say it, delegation. I mean, I think council needs to be the only reviewer of decisions of council planning.
Which is it.
That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
So that would be amended to
What she already did.
1002 powers?
You're getting me confused, but that's all right.
Okay.
You're looking at what you worked at last time, Jen?
Well, we already, the language we added on the top of page
Page
7 on the minutes.
Yeah, okay, I put them on 6.
So we, yeah,
Took
read
out-
that, Dave.
All right, read what? 6 or 7?
Go ahead, Joseph.
Okay, so the planning commission shall, we took out, be the planning authority. And it should, planning commission shall perform such duties, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we took out planning authority. And then at the end of it, we put all recommendations of the planning commission shall be referred by the commission to council for final approval.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so you
good.
have that, so you have
All right,
that in
I'm
place.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Then, subsequent to that, what would have to be the alternate would be, because there'll be 2 sections amended, goes back to 409. Now it'll say, it says, and again, council shall be the planning authority, semicolon, whether that's correct or not. Minor recommendations from planning commission shall be approved by consent agenda, because that was something else everybody agreed
Right.
So we're good the way it is? All right. All right, are we done with
upon.
it?
So I don't have to put anything about you here. I could cross you out.
Make sure I said I was present when you called.
And the way to sell that to the voters is to just point out what happened with the soccer stadium.
All right.
But for the voters, but for them showing up, you know what? That monstrosity would have become Godzilla in our city.
Still good. All right, let's move on. I think that the next agenda that we were talking on, are ready to talk about is section 14.03, dealing with the fractional issue for removal of the building commissioner. The way it is now, it says that it will require a 5/6 affirmative vote, which means 5 out of 6, which is, I think, a typo, and it should be majority. Or
Could I go
please
back?
jump right in.
Okay. So
Go ahead,
when,
jump back to
oh, great. Okay, so when, prior to the revision to the charter, all the sections said 5/6.
Right.
Every section except, and including that one, and it fell through the cracks. And every section that said 5/6, 5/6 of, excuse me, yes, 5/6 of 6 was 4. Okay, I'm saying that wrong. So everything changed to 4 from the fraction, okay? Following me? So you have to decide whether all those sections that have 4 should be changed, or this one goes back to 4, the fraction of
So everybody understands the question.
I do, but before we do that, do they have a brain freeze, or did we vote last time to eliminate the council ability to remove department heads?
Never got there.
Because shouldn't we take that motion before we worry about fractions?
Yeah,
Because if
that
those are
wasn't-
deleted, then there's no issue.
it. So that's the last one on this.
I
This
know.
isn't the formal.
I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't have a problem if you want to
I'll go ahead
move this
and,
to the end.
I'll go ahead and make the motion now to get it on, because I don't know if there's enough votes for it. But I would like to make a motion to take out of the charter in all the sections listed on the sheet that Josephine has prepared, that count them as the the mayor as administrative head of the city have the right to hire with confirmation of council, but remove department heads without confirmation of council. Or vote. Just as a general thing, and then we don't have to talk about all those individually. Because if that passes, then the fraction's not an issue, and if it doesn't pass, whatever fraction or number we decide to go, we have to go with all of them at the same. Correct?
Yes.
So
You
just-
know,
Right,
you've always said, I agree with you, Ken, I agree with you, Dave. I don't think you've said you've agreed with me yet.
When you're right, Peggy, I'll agree with you, okay? I've been here 40-some years. All I'm saying is, if you give the mayor the right to fire a department head with council's approval, all right? Does he need a justification reason for it? Now, I think we all should understand that we are asking for a lot of lawsuits here when we do this kind of. Now, if council has to approve the planning commission on certain things, why shouldn't they approve on if the mayor wants to get rid
Why
of?
should they or why shouldn't they?
No. If you say they should have to approve of some of the things the planning commission does, correct? If the mayor, I'm a department head, unless he's got justifiable grounds, he says you're fired. I have no recourse to it but to sue.
Are you over 40?
Pardon?
Are you over 40?
Yeah, I'm 81.
Okay, then Ken can help you with that if you get fired. Right, Ken?
What's
That
that?
is not my point.
What did he say?
I don't, he
No,
said
I-
he
I'm
didn't have
saying
any
is-
recourse.
Chuck Justice have enough money to afford.
I
No,
got news for
seriously.
you.
Could I
Really?
have
I
some
can buy you
clarity for your
tickets.
motion? Yeah, no, could I just have some clarity with your motion, Peggy? Okay, so I'm just looking at a generic removal clause that happens to be the director of law. All right,
All right,
so
what section?
I'm looking at 909. I'm just looking at the basic language.
All right.
All right, it says that the director of law can be removed by the mayor if the majority of the members elected to council approve such. So that's the one vote and 3 additional. Then in the second paragraph is the director of law can be removed by the 4 affirmative votes of council. So you have the it's a two-part issue, 4 votes required on both sides, the 1 and the 3, which is the 4, or the 4 council. So tell me what you want to do. Remove the entire sections entirely, the entire clause entirely. That's what you want, okay.
Okay. And so that's the motion.
Yes, and it's
Right.
listed.
The
all
clauses in
these
their entirety.
Right.
Department heads, all these department heads listed.
And there's some missing there. There should be a total
Tina.
of 12.
It's catching, isn't it?
It is, right,
Oh,
you're
Does he
next.
have something?
What they,
He
oh,
ran
David?
to
No problem.
get it. He ran to get it. All right. Let's give Dave a minute to.
Yeah.
To catch his.
There, literally, I found some here. There's other ones.
Yeah.
and it goes back to what I've been saying for the last 6 months. If we're gonna give council more power, we've gotta give the CEO, mayor, whoever, more administrative power. He or she should have the right to work with whoever and their extension of their goals and vision for the city. And if you don't like that, then you don't elect them.
So you would change then, get rid of the language, or maybe just keep the language that says the director of law may be removed by the mayor. Would you put for cause or just?
Well, I would think you'd have to say for cause. That would be a Joe Deemer question, but I would say
Yeah.
probably. But actually, when you're an at-will employee, I don't think you need cause, do you?
Probably not.
So,
Not in
I
Ohio.
don't think so.
So,
And you know what, for those people working government like me, you take those jobs knowing that. You know what, if you get the mayor mad, you're out, you're done. You know that.
Interestingly enough, though, almost every city has a similar clause.
That Macedonia does?
It's for removal of director level and above staff. In fact, I went back and looked at the history of when this was being presented originally by Joe, and that was one of the arguments for it. There's a lot of the other municipalities in our area are doing this. They continue to.
Is there, I guess, is there a second to Peggy's motion? Right, you made a motion, right?
Tell me again what you're thinking.
Okay. My thought is that if the mayor wants to hire or fire a department head, that he does not need permission from council.
Okay.
So she's asking to remove that language that requires.
All these, it would be the same for all of them.
Mhm.
So if he wants to say to the service director, you know, you don't understand what I'm trying to do, you don't meet my vision, we're not on the same page.
Mm-hmm. I got that.
And you ask, you know, you do it professionally, but the mayor has the right to do that.
Currently now, he can terminate someone, but he has to get council's approval.
Okay.
Right.
I'm
And
sure
that,
that's how it
and
works for
council
you.
can do it without the mayor's approval.
Right, but it would take more votes.
It takes more votes.
What's your rationale for that?
Because as CEO, I think that he or she should have the right to have the people that have the same vision and goals that they have to run the city. And they should be aligned the same. That as CEO, you cannot, especially your key people, your finance director, your law department, you cannot run and accomplish your goals if you have somebody not on the same page.
Can I offer you an example where this may pose an interesting situation? All of the staff, the high-level staff, at the time of an election of a new mayor, let's say we get a new mayor, that currently, in order for that new mayor to arbitrarily walk in and fire everybody, that mayor has to get approval of council. What you're proposing, if it were passed, would enable each time a new mayor comes in, he can just clean the slate and bring his own people in and eliminate the continuity. For example, the building department, the law department, the finance department, even the service department. You know, there may be very skilled and experienced people in there, but just because we've got a new mayor now, that got elected, that person now is fully empowered to eliminate that entire staff and come in with the
And
When you say
were
the
you-
staff, she's saying the director.
director.
Yeah, not the
Yes.
staff. And
Yeah.
did you see, were you around here in January? What happened in Cuyahoga Falls? The mayor had been there for 28 years.
Mhm.
The mayor is a different political party, came in, everybody changed. And you know what? Cuyahoga Falls is running just fine, isn't it? I mean, it happens all the time. Doesn't mean he will or she will do that, but yes, they have the right to do it. And that's exactly what my motion is.
Well, you know, I understand what you're saying, Dave. And, you know, it's pretty difficult to go into office and remove everybody because, especially all your directors at that point in time, because the operation may come to a halt depending on.
Probably will.
Depending on who you're removing. So it has to be a process. It's not something where you just walk in the door and say, okay, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. But on the other hand, this is the analogy that I used to have to tell people what my condition was when I became mayor, is that I was the quarterback, and I've said this before, and I would say hike, and I would have everybody tackling me, my own people, and that's a bad situation too. So, you know, there's got to be some sort of way that it works out where, first of all, you don't walk in and you don't remove under the employees that are working the operation, the administrative employees and what have you. Directors are different. When you go to the state level, when the governor takes over, he replaces every department. No question about it. All the directors of the state get removed and a new one is put in.
At the county?
At the county level as well. So it does occur. I mean, I sponsored this legislation at the time, or this amendment, charter amendment at the time, because I felt that there was something that wasn't right. But having sat then in the other seat, at the time I was a council person, then I became mayor and had to deal with that particular issue myself. and thought, you know, it's really holding somebody hostage that you have to keep somebody that you may not want to work with anymore, or is adverse to what you're trying to drive for. So, you know, saying that, I mean, I'm in favor of the removal of it, but understand what you're saying, because the other side of it is the reason that I sponsored it initially.
Yeah, I guess I feel strongly from a private business standpoint that type of final authority should rest with the leader of an organization without having to go to, say, a board of directors. In this case, it's the mayor and council. But I'm just not sure with government whether checks and balances like this are needed. If you look around at, you know, the other municipalities, including the big cities, they have this kind of stuff in place, and I can only assume that they've evolved to having it in place for a reason. But I don't know. I don't know that. I'm just offering up some comment to spur a healthy discussion about it.
Chuck had something to
Yeah,
say.
I'm gonna ask Peggy, if I am your service director and you're the mayor, we have a qualified service, he's retiring, he's qualified in everything, engineering, street. If I came to you and I say, this has to be done this way, and you say, no, I want it, and you were wrong, you didn't know what you're talking about, I'd have to agree with you or you'd fire me,
It
right?
happens every time.
Well, why do we have to have that?
Well, disagreements is one thing.
Yeah.
So it's not just a mere disagreement because I believe it should be one way or the other way. Doesn't mean that you necessarily get fired. There was a lot of times I had department heads come into me and tell me I was wrong about something, and if I was wrong, I'd admittedly say I was wrong.
But that was you, Joe.
You know. Well, but that's the way it should be. I mean, look, you want the best talent under you as you possibly can find, and that talent will make you shine. So
You can afford it.
if you can afford it, right?
Ken, do you have any thoughts?
I'll probably vote against it.
Okay.
Well, that's why I wanted to
just
get it
don't.
out. I understand.
I just don't like the idea because there's a lot of good people who just don't deserve to lose their positions because the person who was elected as a golf buddy.
How many people did the new county executive in Cuyahoga County keep, even though they're the same political party, from Fitzgerald?
Yeah, but it's so corrupt there that you can't use that
I'm
as
just-
a model. I know what you're saying,
If
but
Cuyahoga Falls, I use
it's,
Cuyahoga Falls as a model. Cuyahoga Falls is a very well-run city under Don Robert and under Don Walters. A very well-run, very top-notch, and it just happens.
I would have to say, though, that if I wanted to give credit to the efficiency of Cuyahoga Falls, I would have to give credit to the, for lack of a better word, the employees, the bureaucracy that has been there year after year after year and functions well, because you can elect a lot of people as department heads and they just take a look at what they have. Because Robart was a good manager. And the whole thing about it is it's more based on the employees. I mean, take a look at our present mayor. He ran a gas station. And the whole thing is you had people who knew building, who knew police, who knew fire, recreation.
Did we get a second?
But that's, you know, Ken,
On my motion?
yeah, I just want to say this, is that that's the democracy that we live in, is that anybody from any walk of life can be mayor. It's frightening, isn't it?
Well, it's not frightening.
It's
just
very
the way-
frightening.
But it's the way it is. It's the way the system is. So, you know, anybody can put their hat in the ringer, and if the people like them and they like that person's idea, they can elect them, regardless of what vocation they have. You know, Joe, these are discussions you have when you're like 21 in political science class.
I mean, I understand that, but the practical reality is there's some very competent people who are in positions of great power and influence, and they cause problems.
Well, but that's why we need to speak about, instead of speaking about individuals, let's speak about the generalities of whether or not this law is a good law or a bad law, or a good charter or a bad charter, instead of individuals, because we lose the point of what we're trying to pass here. Because this can't apply to just everybody, or if we're gonna apply it to an individual, then we're wasting our time here.
Isn't this on the table as an issue, though, because of what is going on right now?
Yeah, but you
We
see,
would
that's
be talking about it now.
No, you see, that's a knee-jerk reaction.
And you know what?
Because if you don't like the person that's in office, then vote the person off.
I kind
That's
of,
the issue.
yeah, and if I would amend my motion to make this effective January 1st, 2017, because I don't want this to be effective to, whatever's going on today will be resolved hopefully by 2017, maybe. But anyway, I don't want this to be, this is not an issue for what's going on today. It really truly isn't. I don't know if you've ever, I've been on both sides of the tables, where I've been in alignment with the elected officials, and I've been there when I haven't been in alignment. I've been there, and I'm just trying to get it to be more efficient. But I call the question, if we don't have a second, well, let's move on.
I'll second it for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to point out one thing. Joe, you have stressed that we don't look at the present because that distorts our neutrality, so to speak, and objectivity in making these decisions. But I guarantee you that even if the people sitting here claim that they're not paying any attention to the present, they really are. And oftentimes, legislation is passed in our Congress, in our state legislature, with the fact that presently we have a problem that we need to address. So, well, on the one hand, I think your point is very, very well taken. On the other hand, it's tough to ignore the present, too.
But my motion is to be this one, to be effective January 1st, 2017. Okay.
Is there any further discussion, or ready for a roll call? Okay, a roll.
Mr. Engel?
No.
Ms. Hamel?
And this is for the mayor only to be able to hire or fire? No.
Mr. LaProw?
No.
Mr. Milstein?
Jeez.
Doesn't matter how you vote, it doesn't cost you any money.
It does, though.
That's why I look at it.
I'd like to abstain. I can't not make the decision.
Mr. Martin?
No.
Mr. Miglerini?
Yes.
And Ms. Springs?
Yes.
Okay, motion fails.
See?
The other, Peggy, we
See?
haven't done that
I
in a
know,
long
we
time,
haven't done
Peggy.
that. So Chuck, there's hope.
There's been rumors.
I don't know.
Rumors.
I'm that close.
The press is here, please.
Get out the video.
So now we got to talk about fractions.
All right, so now we go back to fractions, which is specifically in section 14.03A, and I would make a motion that we change it to either a majority or would we be changing it to a majority to be consistent with everything else?
Well, right now, everything else says removed by 4 affirmative votes of council.
Okay, so it should be to vote for affirmative votes. So it would be the same as the other.
Right.
Instead
But
of
that-
being a simple majority, it's got to be a four.
Yep.
Well, again, could I
Mayor
just,
and 3,
right,
council by themselves, to make it like your legislation was 20 years.
Okay, but if we don't change it, that's how it is. You don't have to change it. I thought that's how it is.
But it's only for the building commissioner.
the building
that
commissioner
would
fell
not
to
be
the
treated.
cracks.
Okay, so then the motion is to make the building commissioner consistent with all the other department
Right.
heads?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, second.
Does everybody understand what we're talking
No.
about? Okay.
Tell me again.
when the last,
still on the last
no, that's fine. When the charter was changed the last time around, the building commissioner slipped through the cracks and it was left at 5/6 fraction, where the motion is to treat the removal of the building commissioner the same as all of the other director heads, which we've already discussed about.
Which is majority, 3 out of 5.
Or 4 without the
4.
mayor, yes. Or veto.
Could we not return
Or
back
what?
to
Or
the
veto
motion
would
that
have to
I
be
put on the table
So they have to
2
override.
weeks ago?
Right.
Because I believe that addresses that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's on page 10. That was the last thing we were starting to talk about.
Page 10 in the minutes?
Yeah, but we didn't finish it, I don't think.
Right, I made the motion, we started the discussion, and then we stopped.
All right,
And this is where we were at, I believe.
okay, well, we're going back to it.
So, I guess the reason I bring it up is because this motion addresses all of them. It suggests that we make all of them the same, and it be a simple majority.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But then, if you do that, it says, the way the charter currently is written, it says the mayor or 3, so that's 4 votes. It says the mayor and the majority, so that's 4 votes. And then what you're suggesting for council is majority, so that'd be 3 votes. So you're saying it would require the mayor and the majority, which is,
To do what?
well, you have to look at the entirety of the removal clauses.
I'm talking about confirmation and removal. I'm talking about,
Okay, so if you're
Both.
talking about both, if you go back into looking at the removal clauses, it's a 2-part paragraph. And the 2-part paragraph states, let me find one. Just for here, the
Right.
director of public service shall be removed by the mayor if a majority of the members elected to council approve. So right now, that right there, that sentence means the mayor, which is 1 vote, and the majority of council is 3 votes. So you need a total of 4 votes. Now, if you read the second part,
the
which
mayor's
you're,
not voting there.
well,
The mayor is taking an action, and council is confirming it.
okay.
Okay. So it's 3 votes.
All right, or the removal of 4.
Right.
Yeah,
For
okay.
removal, it's 4 votes.
And that's what the motion is, to change that within 14.03A for the building commissioner, which was left at 5 out of 5/6 votes.
Right. It had a fraction.
Right. Okay. Did anybody make a second to the motion?
I did.
Yes, Peggy did.
All right. Any more discussion on just the issue of the building commissioner?
Why is the building commissioner not going with the 3 to 5 like all the other ones? Because we forgot to do
We
it?
forgot to do it, and now we're trying to make it like all of the other departments.
Okay.
So all in favor of the, call the roll of the motion?
Okay. Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Mr. LaParo?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Milstein?
I think G comes before L.
Yeah, well, right now I'm not thinking.
I'll say
Comes
yes.
before
Joe
Lord.
Rainey?
Yes.
Mr. Milstein?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ms. Fragan's?
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
It passes unanimously.
This is the first one this past year.
Yeah, I know.
I think we had another one.
Some of the motions to adjourn were unanimous. Okay, now, are there other issues that we need to address?
Let's go back to that list. And Mr. Okay, so we did the removal clause. Mr. Milstein still had his
Okay.
last one on page 10. He still had 15. Talk about him.
All right, Mr. Milstein, I've taken off of your list on page 10, the 14.03A, we already handled that, I hope you're not offended.
Yeah.
Not offended.
Give me 1 second. I'd like to withdraw this motion.
There was no second on it. Do you feel like you still need to see, does it technically need to?
I don't think he probably does.
Okay. Then it just dies.
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, other issues that we need to vote on tonight?
You still have that, anybody want to look at that, just before we leave?
I have it.
I think we're done.
So we have 11 amendments that we're proposing to City Council for their review and hopefully inclusions to the charter.
We're not done.
Oh,
No,
you're
we're-
done. You're going. Go ahead.
Okay, David, where you want to go?
I'm not quite sure how to present this as a motion. I guess just, let me offer this. We have had discussion at least 2 meetings regarding the issue of qualifications and duties and all of that stuff. And, you know, at some point, I had come up with some language that proposed what we do is remove from the charter any sections that pertain to qualifications and duties for directors, assistant directors, the building commissioner, city engineer, the fire chief, the police chief, and then adding a duty then instead for the mayor to create position descriptions. I think the discussion centered around the fact that we have all this stuff in the charter that define qualifications, if you will. And,
Why is this important?
I'm sorry,
why is it important? Because the qualifications or skill sets of, for these positions, I don't think should be in a charter where it's required by the voters to change it. I think the charter should define the position, and the mayor and the organization, the human resources organization, and even council by ordinance should define the qualifications and experience.
qualifications
Let me offer you an example.
for a section.
The Department of Finance, qualifications 6.02. Director of Finance shall have knowledge of municipal accounting, taxation, budgets, and financial control. That's all it says.
So what?
I think the qualifications in the charter are the absolute minimum. For example, if you look at the director of law, he must be admitted to the practice of law. You know, that's pretty damn, it's as low as you can get. Then they're going to say you have to be a lawyer for 5 years, like for judges. We do have job descriptions. We do have job qualifications in other parts of
I guess maybe a better response is, that was my point exactly.
Okay.
We have position descriptions. Why are we cluttering our charter with this stuff and requiring any change to it be approved by the voters?
So, but why would we then need to make this change? Because obviously, we have job descriptions that are more complex and require more than the minimums in the charter. So if it ain't broken, why do we want to fix it?
How does this improve the operation of the city?
I hear what you're saying, David. And I think we talked about this before, and I understand why you think that maybe shouldn't be in there at all. I think that it is the basis of a start, if you will, of what that qualification should be. But I think that council controls, along with the mayor, the enhancement of what they're looking for in an individual. Sometimes you have to obviously relax that qualification because sometimes you can't afford to get that person. So I think if you leave it broad, you know, let's assume that you said that all finance directors had to be state qualified and they had to have 5 years' experience. You may not find somebody that has state qualifications, 5 years' experience, so then you just eliminated some bunch of people and you can't get anybody because you can't afford to pay that top dollar. So that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
This is one of those situations, in my mind, is where council has more control, if you will, to assist and legislate the qualifications of people that are hired into the city, especially directors.
I guess the reason that I felt this was important, and I'll drop it after this, because it's clear that nobody really is interested in continuing pursuing this, including me at this point. But our charter is our top level governing document. And my feelings are we shouldn't clutter that with stuff that is ordained elsewhere. Position descriptions and that type of stuff is ordained by council. Now you can say it's in addition to these basic minimums, and my response is, well, if that's the case, then get these the hell out of here anyway. Stick them over there. Have them all in one place instead of 2 different places where confusion can arise. It would not surprise me that there may be some inconsistencies right now between position descriptions that we have and what our charter requires. And I think I was trying to drive taking a look at that. But obviously, there doesn't seem to be any support for taking this as far as considering an amendment to the charter. So I would draw any further discussion.
Are there any other issues that we want to discuss tonight?
I just, for purposes of clarity, we said 11, I'm gonna count them through, just wanna make sure we're on the same page.
Oh, sure, I just counted it from the minutes.
Yeah, okay. So you've got the primary, the runoff, presiding officer, which affects 3 and 4, the veto, the 4 votes, the removal clause relative to council and fixing of that, the creation section for prosecutor, I'll get that out. Composition terms for planning commission, plating authority, and BC member being a member of the BZA, and the fraction relative to 1403A. You good?
Okay. The motion to adjourn?
No, I
Oh.
have another question.
Okay.
All right, so this is, we're done now.
If we adjourn,
Okay. What is the next step?
the next step is, Josephine can tell us probably better than I, because she's been here many times.
Okay, so I'm assuming you're going to keep the May 13th meeting on the agenda. I did email Mr. Beamer to say that you had a meeting this evening, and I just did it the other day. I gave him what we had preliminarily, just as a generic email where I did a bullet of all the relative sections. I didn't give him, he does have the whole minutes, but it was like a bullet point. And I said that you would like to see the language, how it would be presented. Now, he technically may not do an ordinance for you to see, because, that's separate. I'm saying the first time that it probably should be presented to council would be at their May 28th meeting, an ordinance form, and I'll just, at this point, technically, the commission would be done, and the next thing would be going on to council. But in so far as everybody's asked to sort of see what it would look like, I've kept that on, and I've asked him to do that.
Okay, so we will meet with the law director.
No, he won't be here. He'll prepare something and send it to you to see it.
And how long might we have it to look it over?
Well, again,
Why don't I address that with
he'll
Mr. Deaver,
talk.
and I'll get back to you on that. Okay?
I am really comfortable that we did not formalize that in the form of a motion and passing a motion. I believe that we should pass a motion stating that we have final approval over that language, that we will review it. Okay, Right now, we're treating it like it's gonna be a courtesy thing. Oh, here you go, charter review, you can look at it here one more time and make sure you're satisfied with it. And I would like to formalize that.
What are you talking about?
He's concerned that the motion, or the legislation that's prepared by the law department may not reflect what we really are wanting to achieve.
Yeah, but we get to read it, don't we?
Not right now, we don't. We're being promised that.
In the past, did you get to read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You read it over and you say to yourself, does this encapsulate the particular idea or objective that we had? You review it.
Okay.
And I imagine Mr. Deemer was going to pass those out.
So do you think
That's
we'll
how
be
I
able to
remember
have
it.
it in
Well, I
will
sent
discuss that
him,
with
yeah,
Mr.
I'm gonna let Mr. Engel handle it.
Okay.
I will personally discuss that with Mr. Deemer either at this next council meeting or by telephone and get it worked out.
So.
So right now, we're gonna plan on meeting on the
13th.
13th, and you've already committed yourself to something else on the 20th.
Right.
Was the 20th what?
So,
It has nothing to do with this.
well, we probably won't need a second meeting anyway,
No.
Right.
so, okay.
Okay, Chuck?
Being that I'm old and I can't remember so good my vitamins, have we talked anything about the law department since we've been here?
On numerous occasions, but in what regard?
That possible, like that in-house attorney, that hasn't been discussed, has it?
It was just discussed, but it had nothing relative to any changes here.
Right, so basically it stays the same.
I think what Mr. Engel had said, it's all a budgetary issue, and if the council
Yeah.
said to someone, you
Yeah.
only have this much spent, figure out how it works.
Okay,
Once again, I'd like to make a motion
okay.
that the Charter Review Commission have final review and approval of the final language in all items that we have passed. I'm looking for somebody to second that, and if we can
Second.
vote on it.
Okay. Let's call the roll. We'll call the roll.
Okay, let's see if we can get it in order again. Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
You're doing good.
Yeah, am I? I went blank.
Go to Chuck LaFarge.
Yeah, that would be good.
And then you got 3 M's, that's.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That is the problem. Maybe should I, yeah,
Martin, Miglerini, Mills.
yeah. Mr. LaParo?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
I will vote a superfluous yes.
Mr. Miglerini?
Yes.
Dave, can I ask a
Wait,
question?
we're not done voting.
Yes,
This is
Mr.
very
Miller,
tense.
right now you're really getting me off track here.
Yes.
so-
Excuse me.
Oh my God, Ms. Briggins?
Yes.
I
All
just
right.
wanted to have three unanimous motions.
Motion passed. Mr. LaParo has the floor to say
If
something.
and when we get decision on what we want, and the law department writes it up,
Right.
and we read it and we disagree with it, or we agree, I don't know, if we disagree with it, do we have to send it back to Joe or the law department, or can we get an independent, somebody to look at what we, I don't know.
Let's wait and see if that problem arises.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move second.
You know, I tell you what, I think we should discuss the Cleveland Indians bullpen at this point. How they've really failed.
All in favor of the motion to adjourn?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion is, meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for all your hard work and
So we ended up
cooperation.
with 12 motions, right? 11 of which were charter amendments. And
Yes.
3 out of 12.